Hi everyone. I am still on a social media break, but I really wanted to make this video because I think it's something that is really important for families when dealing with school or kinder and teachers, educators, and communication and goals. So my girls have been homesick for a while now with illness, and I've snuck out of the house this afternoon to have a meeting with my 5-year-old's kinder teacher. Now, the meeting was about whether our 5-year-old is ready for school next year or not. And just that language there alone is really interesting. And sometimes I really have to think about the difference between autistic standards and neuronormative standards, or non-autistic standards. So an example is what's happened today for us. We have a wonderful kinder teacher. She has been teaching for many, many years, and she is a fabulous listener, asks great questions, and takes a lot of notes during conversation, and, you know, just is so receptive and open-minded. We're very, very lucky, because I know that's not always the case. So we were talking about school readiness and goals, and obviously one of the major goals for families and educators when children are engaged in early childhood settings is socialization, making friends, and developing and maintaining relationships, learning how to think about others, learning how to take perspective. Now, there are significant differences for autistic children when it comes to these things. And today, when I was sitting in the meeting and we were talking about, I was listening to our kinder teacher talking about our 5-year-old and how she's been really fabulous around thinking about other people and being respectful of them. I want to make something really clear. She has learnt those skills from having a non-speaking autistic sister with significant support needs. She has learned how to give others space. She has learnt how to wait and to watch an entire person's being for communication, not just to listen for words, but to watch their body language too. And I just think that's so beautiful that her sister has taught her that just from being who she is authentically. So when we were talking about socialization today, there was, comments made about, I guess, a concern that the way that our child regulates, or the way that she behaves sometimes when she's regulating, may frighten off other children. It hasn't yet, but may impinge on her ability to maintain friendships. Now, here's the thing about children in general. Children in their younger years, their relationships are superficial. They socialize, they don't necessarily connect. Now, here's the thing about autistic people. We prefer connection over socialization. We prefer to connect with who a person is. I want to know everything about people. I want to know everything. Tell me your traumas, tell me your hopes and dreams. Don't really care about the football match or the colour of the ribbons in the girl's hair down the street, or whatever it is that people talk about when they're engaged in small talk. So I had to communicate. I felt in the moment I had a responsibility, and I'm the only person who can do this, communicate to our kinder teacher what our goals for her are. Because it is okay for your goals to be different than that of your child's educators. It really is okay. You get to say, you're allowed to have a say. So I've made it very clear that our goals are not socialization. They are the development of her sense of self as an autistic person. Now, what I mean by that is yes, it's important for us to have friendships and to learn to be around other people. It's important to us as her parents that she learns these things. However, nothing is more important than her sense of self, her self-worth, her confidence, knowing who she is and understanding why she thinks the way she does and why she behaves the way she does. Her behaviour is her autistic expression, right? Our behaviour is just the expression of ourselves as human beings, whether we're autistic or not. Now, here's the thing about friendships and socialization and autistic children. Our children, many of our children learn to conform. They learn to mask, to camouflage, to mimic others, and this is how they end up making friends, because they watch others and they learn, okay, that's how I should behave if I want to be accepted. Now, sometimes we learn to do that. Sometimes it's just this innate thing that autistic people do. The problem with that, the problem with forming relationships that way, is that we continue to form superficial connections, well, not connections, relationships with others into our teen years, into our adult years. We are making friends with people that we wouldn't necessarily choose for ourselves because we don't really know who we are. Because we've had socialization prioritized over knowing ourselves and having a sense of self and knowing who we are, we're not really choosing people that are aligned with who we are as people, because our navigation on what that is non-existent. So as autistic people, when we can develop and strengthen and solidify who we are as autistic people proudly and have positive autistic identity, then we're more likely to attract people and connect with people who we feel are right for us. Because how many autistic children do you see getting to their teen years or going off to high school and just getting lost in the social world, totally lost, because they don't know who they are? And I know for me, I had this identity crisis. I had no idea who I was because I was so busy all of my childhood just taking bits and pieces of everybody else and making those parts of me so I would be accepted by others and be surrounded by people, because this is what we prioritize as human beings. And the thing about autistic people is that we can be surrounded by many people and still feel completely alone. So I communicated all of this to our child's kinder teacher, and she was very understanding and very accepting of that, because at the end of the day, we are her parents and we are autistic people, and we have this insight. We know how we've lived and we know what we want for our children. I don't want my child to be in a room where she's considered, because I know conventionally as well, children on the spectrum, because I see this all the time, I've worked in the system, we look at autistic children and we want them to catch up to their peers. We want them to be on par with their peers. So we want them to think like their peers and socialize, say the right things and do the right things and look the right way, dress the right way. That's all a mask. You know, when our kids are doing those things, it's because they've been taught this is how we should do, be, think, behave. That's not who they are intrinsically. That's not an authentic representation of who they are. And so I'm not starting out like that with my child. I've been doing this for 21 years. I've been parenting autistic children for 21 years now, and I am not watching another one of my children go through a system where we encourage them to conform and see them completely lose who they are by the time they're 14, 15, 16 and not be able to cope with school anymore, because it's happened in our family a number of times. So I guess my message is, you get to set the standard. You get to communicate to your people, your supporters, your educators, what's important in your family. And if they don't understand, then that's okay too. You have more information about those people, so you can make decisions around whether they're the right people to be working with your family or not. But it's important for us to have a voice for our children and to know what's right for them and to speak up. And that's all. If only I could get somebody to help me with the NDIS. Anyway, have a great weekend.